In this tutorial we're going to look at what is a variable and how is it used for when we do block-based programming in Scratch. So a little bit of information first before we look in more depth on how we create a variable in Scratch. Variables are spaces. I was kind of thinking of them like a box, like a piece of Tupperware really. You can store data and information in. That's stored in your primary memory. Now primary memory basically means what the computer uses first. So whether you've got your Chromebook in front of you, a computer, PC, a tablet, even a washing machine, they all have a little bit of primary memory called RAM. So that's one of the components that's inside your device. And variables are used to store some kind of value. Could be an example like the bottom there could be a person's name, like Mr. Robson. Could be a score that you've got maybe in FIFA. Could be a player score 1 or team 1 score and team 2 score to keep a track of who's winning the football match. It could be on Candy Crush to kind of count up how many points that person's got. And a variable in Scratch is designed to hold one item at a time. So you could say, well, you know, sir, actually, a Tupperware, you can put more than one thing in. I could put a piece of ham in there, and I could put some cucumber in there at the same time. Well, in Scratch, variables hold one piece of data at a time, and each variable's got to have a name. So if you don't give it a name, what happens is it creates a space in the memory, or what's called the RAM, and then you can't actually talk to it anymore because you need to use a name to say, I want to go and get the data out of that name, or I want to add something to that piece of data, or I want to store something in that box or that piece of memory. So it's a little bit like this. What happens is you ask the computer or device to create a variable. It goes away and it creates a space, a little bit like a box, to go and store this in. And at the same time, it will obviously want to know what your name is or what your identifier is for your box. So right click edit text here. So I can give it some kind of variable name, such as the word name. Okay, we better probably ever put something like person's name, because name on its own doesn't really mean much. And I'm going to put equals Mr. Robson. So what that does is it's created a space in the computer's memory, or RAM. It's then given it an identifier called persons underscore name, and then it's stored a value in there called Mr. Robson. Even though, yes, there is a space and it's two words, the computer stores that as one piece of data as Mr. Robson. So it stored that in the memory for me. Noticing that my variable name there, I don't have any spaces. So variable names shouldn't really have a space between them. If you need a space, there's two ways you can do that. One is you can put an underscore between it like I have. Alternatively, you can just put a capital letter. So some students will put persons and then a capital N to show that that's the start of a new word. And either way is absolutely fine in Scratch. So I'm going to go to Scratch here and I've started a little bit of a program off. So to go and create a variable, I will go into data and I will make a variable. I already made one called student name earlier on, but create another one. I need to give an identifier. So this one might be student's age. Or actually, no, it's a completely different player score if I was making a computer game to store the player's score. Okay, and you notice that when I do that, the player's score comes up on the screen, which I can turn off if I don't actually want to be able to see the player's score as I'm running my program. I can set the player score, and there's a little drop down. I can set other things in the player score there. Set the player score to a value, what's called a sign. I can change the value, so I might want to increment it, go up, or decrement it, go down by 1 or 2, or whatever the score might be. I can show it if I want to just show the user what they got at the end, and I can hide it if I want to take that off the screen. Let's say if I was playing a game and at the end of Candy Crush I died, but I just want to show that I got like 1,000 points or whatever that might be. So what I'm going to do here, and I've already started off, is when clicked, I'm just setting student name to be nothing. By default, Scratch will make it the number 0. But actually, if I'm going to do the name, I might want to kind of have a space to store that in. So, asking questions. Let's drag this out of the way. If you want to ask the user a question that you want to temporarily store, we use this here. This was under the sensing part. So this will ask a question of me. Now, when in Scratch you ask a question, it automatically stores that value in a variable it called answer. So it automatically stores that for you in answer. So for the time being, if you want to ask a question, that's probably the best way. So that will store that answer. But what I might want to do is, I might have to ask the person's name. I might want to respond and say, hello, whatever their name would be. Okay, so I'm going to put 2 in here, say hello, I'm going to put a second one in there. So say hello, and I'm going to replace this hello with the actual piece of data from the variable. So I drag in there, from sensing, answer here, and then I run that to see how it works. So click the green flag. So Scratch asked me a question, what's your name? Mr. Robson. Hello, Mr. Robson. So that's how variables work. Your teacher will do a little bit more about variables, asking people's names and also asking other questions and responding to them using sequencing or steps of commands, and also looking at how we increment, make a value go up or make a value go down. And that you might use that later on when you get up to making your own game in Scratch in the last few lessons of the little programming unit that we're doing.